What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another video. It is good to be back. We are having a look ahead to my double game week 27 team selection. Welcome back, everyone. FPL Harry here. Today, it is game week 27 team selection time. We're going to have a look at how my season's going so far, have a look at my planned transfers, if I think I'm going to make any, and have a look at my final lineup going into game week 27. I will also be answering some of your key questions. I'll also be talking a little bit about captaincy this week and potentially any other essential players I think you need to own it this week. That is because, of course, I missed the earlier video in the midweek of game week 27. Normally I upload 3 times, only 2 from this week because I have sadly not been very well, but on the mend now, on the road to recovery. Thank you all very much for the kind words. I'm feeling better, hopefully to be fully mended by the time FPL and deadline streams return on Saturday morning. But let's dive in and let's have a look at how I got on game week 26. Of course, game week 26 was the game week from hell for all us FPL wildcarders. It went horribly wrong. I took out the likes of Mo Salah, I took out the likes of Darwin Núñez, Trent Alexander-Arnold, as well as selling Ben White, who didn't start, but came off the bench and did score for Arsenal in their big 3-2 win. Now, in terms of the wildcard, I got an 8 from Toney. Of course, he was one of the main transfer targets for wildcarders. Got a clean sheet from Kepa. Again, he kept another one in the Champions League. Quite happy that I did decide to go with him. It was the final decision in my wildcard. Estupiñán with a 6 and then Mitoma with a 13. So at least I did decide to go with Mitoma over starting Solly March, who was on my bench in game week 26. So happy enough with how things went, to be honest. There could have been returns for Harry Kane. There could have been returns for the Arsenal mids as well. It did give me a red arrow, though, unfortunately, down from 2.5k to 2.8k with a 49-point game week. It has been a fair few number of red arrows on the bounce. I am slipping slightly. Not too happy with that, given that I've played my wildcard now, so I could really do with this double in game week 27 being a green arrow. Just before we dive into the final part of this team selection video, this video is very kindly sponsored by YFood. YFood is a nutritionally complete meal that will keep you full for up to 5 hours. If you need it, it is also lactose and gluten-free, and it has its very own vegan range. It's available in up to 7 flavors. I've tried the banana. I've already drunk my vanilla. I've got chocolate here as well in the drink format, all of which have been really, really nice. And not only does it come in a drink, you can get it in a powder and you can get it in a bar format as well. If you are interested, there is a link in the description, or you can use code Harry-YouTube at checkout to get yourself 10% off. I use it in the mornings. I use it when I'm working from home. I have it before my streams as well when I get up early to give you all the deadline news that you are hoping to get. Let me know what you think of it. Let me know if you decide to try it as well. And let's get back into that team selection. Now, before we talk about my team and how I plan on lining up for game week 27, a quick review of some of the key questions that are being asked in and around the community at the moment that I didn't have time to, of course, know early midweek videos, so I am going to cover them now. The first one is what to do with Robert Sanchez. If you have Sanchez from Brighton, who lost his place in game week 26 to Steele, it doesn't look like he's necessarily going to come back in. If you are planning on playing your bench boost, this is another question we'll get to in game week 27, then I would sell Sanchez and go and get Steele. However, if you plan on holding your bench boost to game week 29, I don't necessarily think it's worth making a transfer this week, because if Steele has one bad game, they could easily switch back. If you are going to bench boost in game week 29, unless you absolutely need Steele to start this week and you need him for the doubles, then okay, make the switch. But if you are going to play, for example, Raya in goal this week, then I would wait and make the switch going into game week 29. But generally, I don't think Sanchez is going to get his place back, and I think game week 27 and game week 29, it will be Steele after the comments that De Zerbi did make after the match between Brighton and West Ham, where Steele played pretty well, kept a clean sheet, made some good saves as well. Question number 2 is, what should we do if we have no Liverpool assets? A question I never thought I'd be putting in my game week 27 team selection after we all sold them. Of course, they do have Bournemouth away in game week 27, a fixture that we know they can do very well in, as they won 9-0 in the return fixture. And I'm sure Mo Salah will not want to be going another Bournemouth fixture with no returns, with them scoring 9 goals. However, I still think you stick to the plan. If you are looking at my wildcard draft that I posted on Fantasy Football Scout, I still have no Liverpool in it. Liverpool have one fixture over the next 2 game weeks combined. If you've got an Arsenal mid, like Bukayo Saka, 2 fixtures over the next 2 game weeks. Because they blank in game week 28, Liverpool, for me, if you have them, great, play them. Hopefully you get some points from them. Well, hopefully for you, not hopefully for me, but I do think they'll do well. If you don't have Liverpool assets, I wouldn't be buying them in. I do not think it's worth a transfer because it means you'll be putting out less players in game week 28, unless, of course, you are playing your free hit in game week 28, which would change my answer slightly, and then maybe you could look to bring maybe Mo Salah back in. But still, I'm going to be sticking with the plan of no Liverpool for this week and just hope that Bournemouth can do something at home, although it seems very unlikely. Question 3, should we be considering selling Erling Haaland? So one of the things that people are looking at is whether moving on Erling Haaland to players with more fixtures is a strategy that we can look at. Of course, Erling Haaland has Crystal Palace away in game week 27. He then blanks in game week 28 and has a single fixture in game week 29. If you are buying in the likes of Ivan Toney has an extra fixture in each of the next 3 game weeks compared to Haaland. He has a double this week. He plays in game week 28. He has a double in game week 29. If you do not have Ivan Toney, I strongly recommend, I think Haaland, Ivan Toney over the next 3 game weeks would pay off. Now, of course, Toney is 2 yellow cards away from picking up a 2-game suspension. So if things go horribly, horribly wrong, yes, you could be punished. And yes, Haaland has the ability of scoring a hat-trick against Crystal Palace. However, over the next 3 game weeks, I would be really, really surprised if Haaland outscores Ivan Toney. Now, I may come to regret this. You may clip this. You may post it back to me, but that's my consideration. I have Toney, and in the situation where you have Haaland and Toney, I still think going into game week 28 next week, and I will talk a lot about this in my transfer plans video for next week, is I might consider selling Erling Haaland to the likes of Ollie Watkins or Iheanacho. Again, they have extra fixtures on him in game week 28, plus having the double in game week 29. So I do think there is upside there. There is potential Champions League rotation coming as well for them. I do plan on buying Erling Haaland back in game week 30 though, which is a caveat. If you are selling him now, you need to have a route back to him in game week 30. And finally is bench boost game week 27, game week 29 bench boost. So a lot of you, like me, looking at your teams for game week 27, you have a really strong bench. I still prefer the game week 29 bench boost. Yes, Brighton play against Brentford, so you do have that fixture clash, but I still think the way I look at my bench with the fixtures that I have is better to save it for game week 29. My bench is good this week, but I will have a double game week for a goalkeeper and a double game week for a defender on my bench in game week 29. So an extra 2 fixtures just means I think I'm best off waiting for game week 29 to play my bench boost. And I plan on rolling my transfer, as I said in my transfer plans video, I plan on rolling it going into game week 27, but the big decision for me is what to do with my captaincy armband and whether I should be putting on a Brighton player, whether I should be putting on Ivan Toney. Now, straight off the bat, I'm going to be captaining a double game week player. There are some really nice fixtures. Of course, you have Liverpool away at Bournemouth. You have Erling Haaland against Crystal Palace. You have Manchester United at home to Southampton. You have Harry Kane at home to Nottingham Forest. There are some great single game week fixtures this week, but I am going to be captaining a high upside player for the double game week. And I think it's likely to be either Matoma or Ivan Toney for me. Now, the numbers you've got underneath are the ranking, and the percentages are from the polls I put out on Twitter. If anyone follows me on Twitter, you know I love a poll. And these are sort of the percentages that came out. Toney likely to be the most captain player. Matoma likely to be second. McAllister and March about third and fourth. I think March will be slightly more captain, whereas McAllister would probably be a better pick for me. I do have Ivan Toney at the moment as number 1, but him versus Matoma is very, very close. So what is my team going to look like? I'm not going to pretend that I'm going to likely make transfers when I'm pretty certain I'm going to roll my transfers unless someone completely out of the blue gets injured in one of the Champions League games or completely out of the blue is injured in training that we hear in a press conference. What this means in defence and in goal, we have double Brentford's pretty good double game week. Everton and Southampton, they are both away. Henry did look really good. I was really impressed with him in Monday Night Football against Fulham. Very happy to have him. If I was buying a Brentford defender at the moment, Henry versus Pinnock is still really close. They're both better value, I think, than Ben Mee, especially because you don't want them that long term anyway. So I'm currently going with Henry's the one I've got on my wildcard. If I was wildcarding this week, I probably would maybe just favour Pinnock with some of the attacking positions he did get in on Monday night. Raya in there, happy with him and his double game week. We also have a Stupinan. There is a slight risk. There's a lot of fixtures that he might not necessarily start all of the games, but it seems that he's getting early subs when they are winning games, sort of 70 minutes in, which is absolutely fine. His attacking numbers are good, and it means if they concede late, which they have done a couple of times this season, he will be locking in the clean sheet, hopefully, when he gets subbed off, and then all the other Brighton defenders do have their clean sheet wiped out. We have Kieran Trippier in the middle of defence. Wolves at home, very happy with him. It's not a double game week, but the attacking numbers there. I do hope for a clean sheet, because I do have Botman on my bench when we get to the bench, and I do think Newcastle need to bounce back because I need them for the upcoming few game weeks as well after this one. Moving into midfield, Saka does start. We are putting Martinelli on my bench this week. Rashford also starts. Expecting big returns from both of these. Saka going up against a Fulham team that have no Paulinho in, which makes them naturally weaker, as we saw against Brentford on Monday night. And then Rashford playing against a Southampton team. Manchester United, a wounded animal at the moment. I always expect a bounce back after a shock result like we saw at the weekend. And then two, the double game week midfielders in Matoma and Solly March. They're in on my wildcard. They're going to be starting. It is a lovely double game week. Leeds and Crystal Palace. If I could wildcard now, I would probably ditch March and I'd probably go with McAllister. But Matoma passes the eye test, March passes the stats, and McAllister is the one on set pieces. So pick your poison. It's pretty difficult to decide between them. And I've got Matoma and I've got Solly March at the moment. And then up front, it is Ivan Toney, it is Harry Kane, and it is Erling Haaland. I set my wild card up that I didn't need to make a transfer this week. We do have a decent bench, of course. Kepa, Martinelli first sub, Botman second, and then currently Zinchenko third. But we might see how many minutes some of these players play in the Europa League, about whether I go and start them or whether they change the benching order. But pretty set that this will be my starting lineup going into game week 27. And as I said, with the captaincy, for me, Ivan Toney at the moment is my number one. It is going to be on Ivan Toney at the moment. There's a very small chance it swaps to Matoma if we get any news, so do check out my deadline stream on Saturday morning if you want to get confirmation on exactly who I'm captaining going into game week 27. So that is my team. We've covered some key questions. Go and watch them if you do want to have a bit of more general discussion about this week. Also, general captaincy discussion I put earlier as well. It is great to be back, sort of healthy. It is great to be back recording as well. Thank you all so much for the support. Thank you all so much for the kind words. We're going to try and hit 1,000 likes on the video. If you have not subscribed already, make sure you subscribe. We are chasing down 50,000 subscribers by the end of the season. Anything you can do to help make that a reality would be absolutely fantastic. Thank you all so much for watching. Good luck in game week 27 when it finally comes around. Like and subscribe before you go, and I'll be back again very soon.